Good day. Today I'm going to be doing some cold casting, and I'm going to basically do everything today on camera, so I'm not going to skip any steps. So this video might be longer than usual, but okay. So what I'm going to do, the first thing that you'll notice is that I'm wearing gloves because I'm casting with polyurethane resin, which gets onto your skin and stays there, and it's very difficult to remove. And also I've started to notice there are cracks and stuff like that appearing on my fingers where the stuff had been spilling. So I've actually got two pairs of gloves on in case my fingers come through the first pair and then I get that stuff all over me. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to make one of these. This is a cast aluminium shield in a gig. Now I haven't cast in aluminium before. I just bought the bag of aluminium powder the other day. So I'm going to make one of these. I'm also going to make a few of these, which are my little bitty skulls. And this is my little bitty skull moulds. This is my shield in a gig mold. I also have this, the mold for this, which is the three wise skulls. I don't know if I'm going to make that just now, but I'm going to keep things simple. Okay, so because this is going to be a wall hanging, we need to have something to hang it from. So I'm going to cut myself some little pieces of wire. Okay, so this is galvanized wire, and I just found it somewhere, probably in a metal skip, and I'm recycling. Always try to recycle stuff if I can. So I just bend that a little bit. Doesn't matter terribly. The resin isn't terribly heavy, and so it's not holding a lot of weight. So that just goes in there, in the tip of the mold like this. The little skulls, I'm going to have to make little hanging devices for them too. Again, the same wire. Just cut it to size 1. We put the wire at the head of the skull here. It's falling down right, so it needs to be bigger. Okay. We don't want the wire too big, so it's sticking through the front of the casting. Already I've got green stuff on my gloves, and that's this polyurethane paint is an absolute nightmare. It does not harden, it does not dry. It's meant to cure in polyurethane resin, but if it spills somewhere, it stays there. It's a nightmare. It really is. It's all over the place. Okay, so we'll have one there. Another one there. Another one there. I try not to let them touch off each other, but they're okay, I think. Another one there. Right, so that's our little hangers sorted out. Now, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be mixing 2 parts polyurethane resin. That's this part, I don't know what part it is. This is the red part. And this is the blue part. So the red, I have enough red here. I just need to get some blue, and this is the blue. Okay, so pardon me. As usual, I've bought these from mbfgfiberglass.co.uk. Okay, this is a company that delivers very efficiently. They're very cheap. They deliver to Ireland, they deliver to the UK. I'm actually hoping, if you're listening to me out there, guys who did this polycraft, I'm plugging your company. Give me a couple of liters of this stuff for nothing. Yeah, and then we'll do a little collab. Okay, great. So this is equal parts. They mix these parts together equally, and you stir them up, and then you have your resin. Now, these are the mixing cups that I have been using with that pigment. They're completely ruined. You can't see the graduations on the side. I'm going to put it to one side. I'm not throwing them out. I don't throw out plastic if I can help it at all. So I'm just going to reuse them at some point, maybe grow something in them. This one again is a little bit too well used. So here's what we're going to do. Okay, so there's our mixing cup. So we want equal parts of blue and red. Okay, A, B, whatever you want to call it. We mix them together, and then we're going to pour them. Now, I haven't, of course, bothered to find out exactly how much goes into each part. I can maybe make this skull mold, which I happen to know takes about 100 milligrams, 100 mils, sorry. Okay, so here's what we'll do. That green stuff, it's going everywhere. It really is. I don't recommend, if you're buying that polyurethane pigment, to be very careful with it. If you spill it, it goes everywhere, and it stays. It doesn't dry. It doesn't dry at all. Okay, so I'm going to be using aluminium today. This is the aluminium powder. Again, it's from MBFG. Shout out MBFG. Give me a few kilos of this and a couple of liters of that. And I'll keep talking to you guys, okay? So I'm going to tag them in the description as well, which will be down below. This is the aluminium powder. Again, I get it from these people. So, cold casting. I'm just going to move these out of the way. First thing we do is we're going to dust the inside of the mold with the metal powder. I'm going to do the little skull molds as well. Now, I've never made the skull molds. I've never used the skull mold with aluminium powder before. The bronze powder that I used at the alternative market, they were a big hit. I must say they were a big hit. I sold a lot of them, and more than I expected to. But then that was the alternative market, so there's people into skulls. Good, very good. There's another one on the 4th of December here in Dublin, so it's in the Grand Social again. Very well organised and very well run market, so definitely give that a shout out. So what I'm doing is I'm running the aluminium powder on the inside of this mold. This is a silicone mold, so the powder will stick to the inside of it. We want to coat the inside of it. We don't want really, really thick areas of it. Okay. So I'm going to spill out the excess there. Looks like it's okay. Put a little bit more around here maybe. Okay. So that has coated the inside of the mold, I think, more or less. This is the mother mold that came with this thing. It's useless. It's going to start collapsing, so I have to make myself a new one, but I'm not doing it right now. Okay, so that goes in there, and it's more or less supported then by the cardboard housing. So what I do then is I just remove this little hanger, and I'm going to move the stuff, the powder, the aluminium powder, around the inside of the silicone mold, so that it sticks to the surface of it. Move it around like that. The metal will naturally kind of draw itself to the surface of the silicone, which is great, and it gives us a thin veneer of the metal then in the front. Okay, so I just do it a few times. Just leave that there for the moment. Then the same with our little skull molds. I want to get the powder to coat the inside. You know, I don't know how long this mold is going to last. It's been getting a bit of use from me now in the last couple of weeks leading up to Halloween. I really used it. Resin is toxic. Seems to be. I didn't realize this, but it seems to be that the resin eventually will wreck the silicone mold. The Medusa mold that I have here now is ruined because the resin was starting to stick to it, and the castings are no good. So I've had to order myself a couple more. Now it looks like that the metal powder isn't sticking to the inside of this at all. I think that the mold is starting to dry out, so it looks like it could be on its last legs. We'll just tip that in there anyway. looks like it's not, looks like it's given up the ghost. Anyway, so that's my, the plan to have it at the very, very front of the mould there. Looks like it's not going to be too successful. I'm going to sprinkle some more in, hopefully it sticks. It's not sticking, okay. Onwards and upwards, we'll go ahead anyway. We'll put our little hangers back into the mould. Let me have a look at that. Got damage somewhere along the line, don't know what happened to it. Okay, never mind. If I have enough over, actually, I might do one of these. The Green Lady molds here. This is also silicone. There's a bit of wear left in this one anyway. It's fairly new, but unlike with plaster or Herculite or concrete, which seems to be fine in these silicone molds, the resin seems to really take it out of them. They have a finite life when you use them for resin. I've only started to notice this, so they don't last forever at all. So this is another factor when you talk about the expense of this, because resin is much more expensive than concrete or Herculite or what have you. It's also taking a toll on the molds as well, so this is a more expensive process, all things considered. Okay, so I'm going to coat the inside of that as well. I'll just make sure I put my hanger back into the lady. Okay, the Sheila and the gig. I'm going to dump the aluminium powder into my measuring dish, measuring cup. Okay, so I'm going to put this there. Cut myself a little hanger. Too big, snip it down a bit. So you've got all these little molds that I made in the last couple of weeks. This is a little small Buddha mold. That's the Buddha that came out of it there. I made a few of those at home. There's another one. There's a little, I don't know what that is, like it's a little angel or something like that. There she is there. These are all homemade molds. Again, this is an owl actually. An owl mold. Copy that. So we pouring these anyway, certainly in time for Christmas. There's a little bit of plastic fell into that. We don't want it. See, I'm just not organized enough. But then again, you know, things like that do happen. So sprinkle a bit more of that aluminium into the mold. It's not really sticking very well. It was I found with the other metal powders was much better. The bronze and the iron powder which stuck to the mold much more readily. Anyway, this is all a learning curve. So don't worry about the little bit in there. So what we're going to do is I'm going to measure in my part A, we'll call it, and I'm going to go to 200 here, okay? So when I add in the hardener, it's going to be 400. I think that's probably enough for both. It's probably, and the skull as well. It's probably about enough. If not, I can make some more up really quickly. So where are we? So this is the this part A. I'm going to pour that in there. Now you see the two parts are inert. They don't react until you mix them together. So we have the pot life as such for these when you mix together is 2.5 to 3 minutes. That means they start to harden after 2.5 to 3 minutes, but only when they're mixed together. So before they're mixed, you can mess around. As long as you keep them separately, you can do what you like really. So what I'm going to do is try to reuse my stirring spatula. Look at the state of it, it's wrecked. Anyway, so I'm going to give this a mix. There's a little bit of that aluminium powder in there. What did I say? So it's just about a 200. So I'm going to pour another 200 of the hardener in. It's going to take it to 400. Now, I'm going to add a load of this aluminium powder. And I'm going to mix it real quick. 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes, and it starts to set. Once it starts to set, then you can do nothing with it. So have to do this quickly. Make sure it's thorough. You don't want the two parts mixing, or the two parts to be separate, because then it won't cure in the mold. Okay, so first is our skull. Pour it in. One little bit like that. Shake it around. Make sure it goes into the head correctly. I'll show you why in a minute. And I have to make sure that it goes in evenly, right? So that's a little bit in there. Pour it in. Okay, so it's up to the top, that's fine. Give that another stir. Give our skull there a shake. Yeah, we'll pour into the Sheila. Shit, it's going everywhere. Yeah, this is what happens. So the table's at a very slight angle. The table's at a slight angle, so some of the stuff has gone over the edge. This happens all the time. I'm not particularly bothered because I've nothing of any value on the floor. Okay, so which is just as well, because you don't want to do this in your kitchen. You don't want to mess with polyurethane resin at all in your kitchen. It's a nightmare. When it sets absolutely solid, and if it goes onto a table, you have to sand the table to get it off. So there we go. That's just enough then to fill my green lady. The little green lady mold there. So I don't have enough to do the skulls. Okay, so that's it. Yeah, it's okay. So we have the Sheila gig casting here. I'm going to give it a bit of a shake to get the stuff in. That'll start to cure really quickly. What I'm going to do, if I can find it, yeah, I'm just absolutely never prepared properly. So here we are. I'm going to get some more of this, the aluminium powder, and I'm going to dump it into the casting before it sets. Now, that'll probably sink down, but if it doesn't, I'm going to help it with the spatula. So we still have about 1.5 minutes before it starts to set. Mix the metal in there. So this added powder will give it a bit of weight. And also when I go to polish it up then, it'll give it a much more lustrous metal sort of a shine. Okay, so this polyurethane resin is great stuff. It's very rapid, but it is very messy, and it's very unforgiving. If it falls onto anything, it sets like, it's obviously plastic. It sets like plastic, and you have it for life then. This is a terrible table. It's all full of bits and pieces. If you're using a wooden table, I don't recommend. I mean, I would cover it with something, because if you spill it so much as a drop of that stuff, it'll set solid, and you'll have to. It is plastic. It's a form of plastic. You're going to have to literally sand it off then. See, this stick here is covered in the stuff. And when I said about the skull molds there, I said I wanted to shake it to make sure it got into the head. The reason for that is because I poured one the other day, and I was in such a hurry. To get it done that, look, the top didn't turn out because I didn't make sure it was in the mold. You see, with a mold like that, you've got to pour everything down. You've got to shake it to make sure that it fills everything, and it didn't work. So we have a skull now with no head. I'm not going to throw it out. I can do something with it, make it look like brains or pink inside red. I don't know. This is what art is all about, isn't it? So I'm going to wait a few minutes while this sets. It's already, the bit that's spilled there, you can see it's already starting to go gloopy. This is one that I made yesterday. And as you can see, that the green from that spilt stuff has managed to go all over the casting. it hasn't quite ruined it, but there's the potential. So even though wearing gloves, the stuff just goes everywhere. That pigment, for polyurethane pigment, to be very, very careful with it. If it spills, it's everywhere. So I'm just going to buff this metal up. This is, I don't know if anybody's noticed or seen my cold cast bronze videos, which are, I have in the previous ones I've used cold cast bronze. So the treatment is exactly the same. I just get some very, very high gauge steel wool, and then I buff the metal. And oh yeah, it is actually, it's very nice. It's turning up very well. So just turn it up. Metallic and silvery looking. Now you don't want to rub this too hard, because then the wool will go through into the resin layer underneath. But yeah, it's nice. It turned out okay. You see, that's my first cold cast aluminium sheet in a gig. So basically, what I've done is I've moved on to cold casting I'm doing most of my favorite molds now. I'm doing in cold casting too. The resin, like I say, is more expensive and it's more fiddly and tricky, but the results are better. There are a couple of things that can go wrong. This corner of this shield in a gig got left behind in the mold. It seemed to cure unevenly, so I suspect that's because I mixed it unevenly. Maybe there was a small part of it that wasn't mixed correctly, and this is what happened, got left behind in the mold. So basically that's ruined, you see. The price of that stuff, then you have to be very careful and make sure you get it right. I did a cold cast aluminium, Medusa head. This is one of my big sellers, so to speak. And this is just before the mold gave up the ghost. The mold is not, it wasn't giving out perfect casts anymore. So this would be, it's not quite up the quality of the first few, but it's fine. I'm going to give it a buff up, and I'm going to see what happens, see what it turns out like. In actual fact, the aluminium, or the resin casting, means that you don't have to paint your pieces, but you do have to do this with the wire wool, and that takes, to my mind, it takes nearly as long. You don't have to wait, obviously, between coats for it to dry, but it does take time to do this. And when something as intricate as that, you're wrecking the wool the whole time. It's you're leaving lumps behind. It takes time, and it also, you go through the wool very quickly. So I have to go to the hardware shop basically later and get some more. Again, make sure it's not that it's not coarse steel wool, because it'll lead through the resin. See, that's not too bad. So what I'm going to do with that, I think, is when I'm finished buffing up the metal, is I'm going to go over it with some black boot polish, so it will go into the detail, and it should make the metal pop. It should make the aluminium effect pop out against the blackness, something like that. I mean, all these things, obviously, they're handmade individually, so you have to look at each one. They don't turn out the same. You have to look at each one and say, well, okay, how can I improve the look at this, or how can I make that one pop out a little bit? So when people are buying from me, I have 4 or 5 things that maybe on the first look, they appear to be the same, but they're actually not the same. They're different finishes. They've been made with different materials, different techniques, and every single one obviously is done by hand. There's no machines or helpers here. So our poured resin is probably pretty hard already. Now I'm just touching it. To touch it certainly is hard. Just this one is curing. You can see that it's curing because the color has changed. I'll give it a few more minutes. I don't start pulling them out of the mold too quickly, because that's just asking for ruined pieces. It's the same with anything. You're in a hurry. I can't wait to get this out. I want to see it. I want to see it. But if you do it too quickly, if you're in a hurry, you're going to ruin it, and then you've lost the material and you've lost your time. So, and for me to have to learn patience at my age is very much an uphill struggle. So, it's starting to come together a little bit there. Just give it a bit more down at the bottom here. See the contrast between where it's just been poured and where it has been, I say, buffed. It's starting to shine through there very nice. You can see the aluminium colour. Actually turned out better than I expected. It's all about experimentation. And it's about enjoying yourself. If you take up a hobby, if you want to do it as a very small business or just for whatever reason, it's very important that you enjoy yourself. I think this is cathartic for me. Helps me relax, gives me a little bit of time to be creative, and I'm not really an artistic person. I never have been. This is something that I enjoy. The feedback is positive, so this makes me happy. Now this resin cures from the thickest portion out, from what I hear. So the center part where the face was, for example, is going to be the thickest part, so it's probably cured there, but it cures outwards. So the edges, they cure later. The edges is where you lift it from, so I'm going to just give it a couple more minutes. I think it's fully cured after 20 minutes, but I would leave it a day or so before I started buffing it with the wire wool, just to make sure that it's hard enough. Yeah, it's not bad. She's not bad. I have to say now, I'm quite happy with that. I like the way it turned out. And I'm not the easiest person to please in terms of my own work. I'm very critical. And so you should be. So there should be. There's no point passing off rubbish and expecting people to like it and to buy it. It's not going to work. If you're happy with it, then other people should be happy, unless your tastes are radically different. And if their tastes are radically different, then what do you do? So my two sets of gloves have held up anyway. This is the rough treatment with the wire wool there is usually enough to wear the gloves right through, but no, they've held up. The two pairs grand. Fine. As we say in Ireland, everything is grand. Little bit more maybe, yes. Okay, so nearly finished with its initial buffing. Okay, so we'll just get our filthy towel. It's not filthy, it's just full of paint. Give that a quick wipe. Have a look. It's not bad. Not bad. Okay, so like I say, I'm gonna put some boot polish, something similar like that, so that'll get into the inlights of the not the proud bits, not the bits that are sticking out. You know what I mean. You know what I mean. It's a bit early in the morning. I haven't really eaten, so my brain is foggy. Yeah, so I'm going to put some black in there. I'm going to rub it into the detail, and then hopefully that'll make the silver pop out a little bit better. But yeah, it's okay. It's not bad. What fell there was there's one that I made the other day, and unfortunately the mold was starting to decompose, and it's left tiny little bits of the silicone in the casting. Now this is obviously it's a different color because it's different metal. This is a mixture of iron and bronze powders together. So I'm going to take the stuff out of the mold now in a minute, don't worry. So I'm just going to give this a very quick rub to see what color scheme we get. I said it would be a long video. I said it would be a long and boring video. Now you get to look at me rubbing my castings with a piece of wire wool for hours and hours and hours. Well, that's YouTube for you. I haven't figured out how to edit these videos yet and to shorten them and to splice them and all that sort of thing. I'll get around to it, but I just haven't had the time at the moment. So you can see it's starting to take shape there a little bit. Okay, there's one I did the other day. I haven't buffed it completely. It's a little green lady, but if you look at the colour of it, yeah, I think that's absolutely beautiful. I'm sorry I don't like to be to be playing my own violin, but I like it. I like the look of it. And this is a secret blend. Actually, I'm not gonna say what it is, but it looks like it's brass. So I reckon that'll sell pretty quickly at the market. That's my little prediction. So we're going to have a look here. Make sure that the curing is finished. Peel off the edges here slightly. Seems to be okay. I don't see any gungy bits left in the mold. Now ideally I should have left this 20 minutes or so, but yeah, I think I put too much of the metal powder into that mold. I think I've left some little details behind. This is what happens. Okay, it certainly seems to have set. Okay, I'm going to take it out really carefully. Ease it out. See, I mean, this is, like I keep saying, this is much faster than pouring concrete or Herculite. Concrete, you literally have to wait days before it's ready. The Herculite, 20 minutes or so. But certainly it can't be painted for a couple of days anyway. You still have to take a certain amount of time. Now, I'm hoping this isn't sticking to the mold, which is a sign that the mold is basically bagged, as they say in Australia. The mold is bagged. No, it's not. It's okay. Now, what's happened here is I poured too much of the powder into the highlights, into the deep parts of the mold, and they've stuck there. When it's come out, you see this powdery effect here. That's where it's left slight bits of the detail behind in the mold. It's not the end of the world though. She turned out basically okay. I'm going to wait, and then I'm going to buff it up with our eponymous steel wool and see what happens. Remember, this is the first one I've done. The first cold cast aluminium green lady that I've done is probably the first cold cast aluminium green ladies anybody's done. But I'm a pioneer, that's what I am, a pioneer. Okay. So I'm hoping this is ready. No, it's actually, oh no, it's okay, it's okay. It's coming away. very carefully. So it's certainly set largely. Yeah, it seems okay. Just be careful, can still feel the heat. When these resins set, they give off some heat in the, I think it's called an exothermic reaction when the two sides meet. So look, there's our Sheila in a gig as she's just come out of the mold. Looks okay, I don't see any problems. I'm going to trim the excess there from the back. I'm going to use this craft knife because the resin is still relatively soft. It'll go hard like rock in a couple of minutes, and I won't be able to cut it. I'll have to sand it. I don't want to be sanding, so this is what happens. I'm doing this now, and there she is. So that's ready to dry or to harden off for a to cure. I'm going to leave it till tomorrow. Then we're going to buff it up now. So we're going to see what happens with our 3 wise skulls. They should also be cured. Like really, that cardboard mother mold thing is a joke. It's falling to pieces. I'm going to have to make another one. Actually, it's not going to be too difficult to make another one, but there you go. Right. You can still feel that's warm. So I'm not sure if it's done. Listen carefully because there are a lot of undercuts on this. There's bits that go under, in case you didn't know. See, some of that green has managed to get itself onto the surface of the casting. So basically, before I go anywhere with this table next week, I'm going to have to clean all that stuff off. I don't know how long it's going to take me or how easy it's going to be, but I'm going to have to, because everything that's touched off that spillage has turned green and stayed green. That's this pigment. Easy peasy, nice and easy. So I mean, all this stuff takes time. You know, you can't just do it rapidly, quickly, churn hundreds of them out at a time. This is handmade stuff, and it takes time to do. It's a lot of steps, preparation, etc. So it's not the quickest way to churn out pieces. Okay, so I'll have a quick look. Yeah, I mean, he looks fine. He looks fine. The head contrast with the other one. So the head turned out okay. Yeah, it's okay. Detail's fine. Again, wait that. This is quite warm actually. Feel in my hand. I'm going to wait for that to harden, to cure, and then I go to buff it. Okay, so that's all right. This is one that I made with Herculite. So certainly it looks the same. It's just the ingredients are different. What we can do while we're here is my favorite technique, One of my first techniques when I started doing this was dry brush with gold. So I've always got gold on hand. Not real gold, obviously, I'm not that rich. This is a gold paint. It's very, very, very cool. One tin literally lasts for months and months and months. This is Ruston's gold paint. It's available in hardware shops here. Now that brush, I could probably use it, but it's really, these are brushes from Lidl that I bought many months ago, and I've gotten a lot of good use out of them. You know, the stuff there isn't bad at all. So okay, I'm gonna work away with this. Now I've taken most of the heavy gold paint off the brush, the dry brush technique, so got most of it off using the side of my table, of course. And then what I'm going to do very gradually, very gently, is I'm going to go over the highlights, going to dry brush the highlights with the gold paint. So just nice and easy over the highlights, which is the skull. There's not that many highlights. It's basically just the face and the hands. The rest of it is going to get a bit of gold paint. So this will be varnished to give it that nice glossy effect. I'm hoping to bring these to the alternative market in December. Hopefully make some nice gifts for somebody. People want to do the Christmas shopping there. That's great. I got all kinds of Christmas shopping or Christmas gifts for the macabrely minded, shall we say. I'm going to be doing another video just on the green men this week or next week, just on the painting the green men. So I hope you tune in for that. And anybody who have a couple of subscribers, please like and subscribe. Leave a comment in the video. It's very important. Otherwise, these videos, they just slip down through the search engine. If anybody wants detail, if anybody wants information on how to cast or how to make things, or just ask questions or share knowledge or anything like that, it's important to share them on screen here, the comment section, and we can have a chat. I want to reach out to similar-minded people, crafters, hobbyists, people who like skulls, people who like green men, anything at all. So as they say, like, subscribe, and hit that bell. Like, subscribe, hit that bell. A bit more of our gold paint. Da-da. So there we are. That's our little three-wise skull sculpture, more or less done. Just give that I've just given that a going over with the gold paint. You see, dry brushed it more or less. I'm going to leave that there to dry. I'm going to varnish that probably tomorrow when it dries correctly. So I'm going to put that to one side. And now what I'm going to do, without further ado, is I'm going to take this polyurethane paint off the table where it's been forming a pool of spilt paint, and it's been going everywhere, as I've said. since I sat down. I've been moaning, but I haven't done anything about it. So anyway, this is the time to move it. It's already gotten onto my gold paint, so I don't want that dripping in there, contaminating it. Which, nothing surer than that will happen with me, because I'm disorganized. Okay, so I'm going to put the gold paint out of the way. I seem to have isolated where that stuff is spilled. This area here. Now, this Buddha which I cast, it's been sitting there in that puddle of gold paint. I'm actually going to, or in the green paint, so I'm going to use that. I'm going to just brush it on over the Buddha. See, does that work? Let's give him a nice effect rather than wasting the paint. There we go. These gloves are getting chucked out after I finish. I don't want to be putting them somewhere and getting that paint everywhere. It's a nightmare. So what I'll do is I get our little paintbrush there with some water on it, and I'm just gonna paint that stuff around and see what happens. See what it looks like. Yeah, it's not bad. It's okay. The Buddha's made of crystal, which is one step up from herculite in terms of hardness, which is a couple of steps up from plaster of Paris, which is all gypsum casting powders, if anybody's interested. So we'll just see how he goes. I guess he doesn't have a choice, so that's what our little Buddha looks like after being doused in the polyurethane paint. It wasn't intended for gypsum, but I'm going to use it. There we go. While I'm here, see a couple of little green ladies. I'm going to try that paint with those as well. So basically I'm trying to use the stuff that I've spilled to atone for my stupidity in spilling it in the first place. Okay, so just gonna straight dip a watery brush into it. I'm going to paint it onto my green lady. I'll see what happens. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. The important thing is to try. Try and improve. Try and experiment. It's actually quite nice. It looks like a very, I don't know, a Victorian or an Edwardian kind of green. Such as my grandmother lived in a lovely Edwardian house. I still remember the place. Beautiful house on the seafront in Clontarf, Dublin. And they had this massive ornate fireplace. Now, they weren't rich people by any means, but those houses were cheap back in the 1940s. But they had this beautiful fireplace, which was white marble, and it was, as a boy, it was the height of my head, basically. But the part I always remember, apart from the white marble mantelpiece, was these green tiles in the surround and the inside, over where the grate was. There was this very, very dark bottle green sort of tiles. Very, very similar to this colour. This is just what it's reminding me of. So I'm going to just dab that on and see what happens. Looks okay. You see though, that paint is very is pernicious. It goes everywhere. A little goes a long way. Polyurethane paint, so it actually it cures in the polyurethane resin itself, but it really doesn't like to dry just in air like that. Okay, so we splashed a bit of it onto our green lady there. Look, she's a nice dark bottle green. We'll let that dry, and then I'll probably dry brush that with the gold like I did with our skull. So while I'm here, there's another one. This is a little green man. This and the lady is one of the first molds that I got. So we're going to give our green man the same treatment. Wet the brush, dip it into our spilled paint. Spilled paint, come on now. He doesn't look too happy. But when he's finished and hopefully sold, he'll make somebody else happy. And remember, I said that all this stuff is made with magic. Well, it is. There is magic in this area. There's definitely magic in the ancient land. directly behind this workhouse is a 10th century castle keep, and directly across from that, not far away, is just a hill that sits in the middle of nowhere. And I suspect strongly that there was something built on top of that hill, probably from prehistoric times to maybe the Middle Ages, I'm not sure, but it looks like it's man-made, and these places tend to be built within sight of each other. If you go to the Bruno Boyne area where the tombs are, Newgrange, Douth, and Nouth, they're all within sight of each other. There was literally hundreds of tombs in that area anyway. Some have been discovered, most of them haven't. And this isn't too far from this area either. It's the whole area is redolent magic, and it just has that feel in the air. So when I make these things, I like to think of the magic and the mysticism of the land and the ancestry. That's why I make these pieces that I feel that represent, to some extent, the deities and the beliefs of the ancestors, forefathers, whatever you like to call them. Okay, so there's our green man. He's gotten his first coating of the spilled paint, and already there's not as much of it for me to clean up. So I'm just going to put him to one side and I'm going to wipe it up. And then I have to go around because somebody's hopefully buying something from me at home. So I'll talk to you guys later.